Hey guys, how's it going? So something I don't talk about very much on my channel is being vegan. I try not to talk about it because I don't like to be pushy about my beliefs. Um, One of the reasons I left Christianity was, well, one of the many reasons was because of the way that Christians, and not just Christians, but Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, they try to push their beliefs on you, and it's a real turnoff. How often does someone who has a strong opinion and feels like the need to share it with someone, how often does that actually translate to the other person going, oh, gee, you're right. I should become a Jehovah's Witness. Oh, man, why didn't I think of that? Not very often. I mean, it may happen to particular people who may are still developing their personality or something like that, but suffice it to say, I don't really like to be pushy about my opinions. However, I have had people ask me about why I'm vegan before, and I thought I'd share my story about that. A long time ago, when I was 23, 24 years old, I was working in a grocery store. I worked there for 18 years. And in this store, there was this office in the back, a small office, which is the bulk foods and general merchandise office. And, you know, the office is shared with many different people. And I was in there doing some work. And one of the guys in there decided to put his hunting pictures in the on the bulletin board or whatever. And I'm looking at these pictures and thinking, you know, I could never do that. I could never take a rifle or a bow and arrow or whatever and shoot an animal and eat it. I just couldn't do it. So really, why am I eating it? If I can't kill it, then why am I eating it? I'm a hypocrite. And that really kind of played on my mind. And at the same time that happened, I was in university and I was taking a philosophy course. And in that philosophy course, they did a section on animal rights. Now, the professor himself was not a vegetarian, but as a philosopher, I think you really need to consider that aspect. And I think a lot of people don't really have formed opinions. They just kind of muddle through life and just do what they do, and without thinking about it. And that's true of Christians. They might go to church, but they don't really... How often do they actually open the Bible and read what it says and understand what it means? I think a large majority don't. Anyway, so when I saw those pictures in the office, and I was taking this course in philosophy on the animal rights, and I learned exactly what happens to these animals and the living conditions in these factory farms and how badly they're treated. I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And, you know, they have veal calves penned up in a tiny little cage where they can't even turn around to lick their own behind. And they also they do that because they want the meat to be tender. So the less developed the muscles are, the more tender the meat is. And also what they do is they deprive them of water, and they give them as little water as possible just to keep them alive, because they want the meat to be tender. So these are baby cows, and you know, cows are the most meek and mild-mannered, one of the most mild-mannered animals that I can think of, and it's just sad that we treat them in such a way. So there are multiple reasons why I'm vegan, but the strongest reason for me is because I really dislike cruelty, and I really dislike animal cruelty. And the best way that I can be compassionate is by not eating meat. It's hands down the best thing I can do in my life, for compassion, for the sake of compassion. They say that the average human eats 88 animals per year. So if you become a vegetarian, you're saving 88 lives. Try not to get on my soapbox too much here, but this is just the statistics. As you can tell by the title of the video, this video is about being a vegetarian vegan, and if you're not interested in that, then I guess don't watch the video. But anyway, if you are at all concerned about compassion for animals, then you really should do some research and make a decision for yourself. And I don't say, you know, some people, you know, there's a joke going around about vegans about, hey, did you know that I'm a vegan? And the first thing they want to make sure that you know that they're a vegan. I try not to do that too much because, like I said earlier in the video, it's a turnoff, and people kind of make their own decisions. Now, in my younger years, I've been a vegan since 1996, and so over 20 years. And in my younger years, I mean, I was hardcore. I was in protests, anti-fur protests. There's one protest we did. We constructed this large cage, and where we had like 6 people in it, and I was one of them. And we put it in downtown Vancouver, and we tried to assimilate the amount of room a chicken has in a cage, and it got attention from people. And then we had this video called Meet Your Meat, and we had it hooked up to an inverter and a car battery off a TV and a VCR. Back then I think it was VCR, maybe it was a DVD, I don't remember. But we had this video playing about Meet Your Meat and exactly what happens in factory farms and slaughterhouses. And you know, some of the women that saw it said, "Oh my God, I can't believe that's what's happening," and their eyes were open and they were crying. And then you other guys are just like, "Oh, it makes me hungry, I think I should go have a steak." So, you know, you have the macho types pulling their shenanigans, and that's fine, you know. But I'm not that hardcore anymore. I guess I've mellowed out as I've gotten older. That said, I will never eat meat, ever. I mean, it's not something I would ever do. Now, am I super strict? No. If I'm at the, you know, in terms of eggs and dairy, if I'm in the staff room at work and there's a donut, I'm gonna have a donut probably. And I'm not going to get all uptight about it because it's a balance. I don't want to stress myself out. You know, I remember one friend I had, he would go into your house and, you know, maybe he comes out of the bathroom and said, "Oh, this product, this toothpaste, you know, that this one ingredient, that's an animal product, and you shouldn't be buying that toothpaste." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But the way I see it, you'd be doing much more for the animals by going to the local animal shelter, like dog shelter, and taking a dog for a walk for an hour, half an hour. And I think you're doing much more for an animal in terms of their quality of life to do something like that than worry about a little tiny animal ingredient. So it's kind of common sense. Anyway, that's a bit about why I became a vegan. And I've been a vegan for 20 years. I've raised both my children. My daughter's 5, my son's 12, both vegan since birth. No problems whatsoever. My son is very healthy. He's 12 years old, never eaten meat and in his life, and he's perfectly fine. Daughter too, perfectly healthy. Now, besides the ethical component of being a vegan, there's all kinds of other issues. If you're an environmentalist, there are reasons to not consume meat. I mean, the amount of fecal matter that goes into the earth in a factory farm, like, you know, is incredible. You know, it contaminates groundwater. There's all kinds of issues about when you have thousands and cows in one area, they're producing a lot of poop. Where's that poop going? You know, and these holding lots that they have, the poop goes right into the ground, and it really causes a lot of damage to have it that concentrated in one area. There's other components too. Feed humans, the amount of feed that's required to feed a huge animal like a cow is enormous, and you could take that vegetable or that grain or whatever and feed it directly to the human, and you would be much better off. than feeding it through a cow first, and the amount of meat that you get out of it. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of details. You can read about it if you're interested. But there's an environmental component. There's a human component. There really no reason for people to be starving on this planet. And then there's also the health component, which is huge. I mean, I don't eat any cholesterol because the only source of cholesterol that there is comes from animals. And the body produces cholesterol on its own. So, you know, there's so many things I could talk about with health. But all I'm going to say is, if you're interested, do your research and find out for yourself. Anyways, guys, I hope I haven't offended anybody with expressing my opinion about why I choose to be a vegan. But I thought it's important to, if you're interested in my life and you're watching this channel, it's a strong part of my life. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good night.